Hey, my friends, another indie deck look for you. A review of the Ashley Cook Tarot. I very embarrassingly keep calling this the Ashley Madison Tarot, not without irony, but mostly without irony because I keep just thinking that's what it's called. A friend of mine recommended this to me, and I liked it a lot. It's a collage deck, which is a thing that can be really hit or miss. But there's something about this that feels very '90s to me. In that that's when I was learning to read, and there were some decks on the market that just sort of made me think of this. And I like this better than those at the time. Like the Gendron Tarot is one that I had and found a little creepy, and one reason why I sort of stayed away from collage decks for a bit, but I quite like this one. And it's a deck that was created in Scotland, and it says on the back, designed in Scotland, 2018. But it was shipped to me from France. So, but I got here really quick. So you can get this through the creator's Etsy shop. I will try to remember to leave that below. It's pretty standard issue Waite Smith in that regard, but it's just got a really fun, colorful vibe, and it has that new tarot smell that you kind of don't weirdly get with indie decks often. So let's take a look. I think it's really great. It's. I don't know that this is necessarily going to be, become a go-to thing that I work with all the time, but I like it, and I think it merits a positive mention, especially for collage, which can be kind of hit or miss. So here's the full. It's actually kind of giving Mercury to me in just the posture. It feels very sort of Mercury. Here's the back. Weirdly, black and white or gray scale for such a colorful deck, but I'm going to move those out of view because when they don't stack, I get annoyed. So here's the Magician. The thing about this deck that I think is successful is it's not trying to pretend it's not collage, which can sometimes, though not always, come off as creepy. This does not necessarily. There is a slightly sort of uncanny valley aspect to this deck, I would say, in part just because of the faces being very clearly pictures. But it's still interesting. So, and there's a lot to kind of pop out at you during a reading, which is the thing I like about, I talk how I like neutral decks, but I also like decks where something will kind of pop out to you that you hadn't noticed before, and I think there's room for that here in this deck. So the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor is giving a little Bert Lahr circa Wizard of Oz, but the faces may actually be real people. I don't know. I don't know if there was. I think that when I ordered this, the creator may have said, "Oh, there's a digital guidebook," but I never really look at digital guidebooks or guidebooks at all, unless I'm doing something specifically about it, like I did the other day. The Hierophant. I really just love the color palette of this Lover's card. Like a lot of decks these days, it doesn't show much body diversity or variations in ability. I wish, that was the thing that we could welcome to the table a little bit more. But, again, it's hard to blame any one creator for that, given that no one or many folks aren't particularly concerned with that. I love this situation in the background. So we're going to look at another deck in a couple days. I'm going to look at it in a couple minutes, but you're going to see it in a couple days. That is also a collage deck and also features a lot of medieval art. The thing about medieval art that's weird to me is that it is both annoying because it's so centered on the church, which is a thing that I have issues with. On the other hand, there's something very wonky and weird about Renaissance or that period of art that I find also kind of bizarrely charming. I don't know how to describe it. It's like when you see those memes of the cat in a circle rolling with a penis wand or something. It's like old Renaissance art is very strange to me, and I find it kind of weird. And in that way, I'm also kind of attracted to it. So when you see the other deck that I'm going to share, you'll probably know it when you see it. Here's the Wheel of Fortune. Interesting. I think these are I Ching or something adjacent in the wheel. Justice. I mean, the thing about collage art is that it can be somewhat disarming or uncanny valley-ish. But I also like that it kind of democratizes creation in a way that isn't sort of, I don't know. I mean, as a tech nerd, like AI stuff kind of interests me to some degree. Like when I think about things like Apple's new AI headset, right? Like all the lefties are freaking out that it's the end of civilization. What I see in things like that is, yes, unregulated AI is going to be an issue. But what I also think is for people with mobility constraints, how that kind of headset could actually revolutionize communication, getting around. So like everything is its other, and I think that in a lot of ways we need to be aware of the possibilities, but also the dangers. I think that from an accessibility standpoint, the Apple ecosystem and that headset, which I can't remember the name of, Vision Pro or something like that, may be revolutionary from a training standpoint. You know what I mean? It may be revolutionary to train people in dangerous jobs, again, for folks with mobility or accessibility issues. On the other hand, it can very easily go awry, and that's why I believe in regulation. So anyway, just this is by way of saying I think that collage art democratizes creation without the complexities of, or the tricky ethical thing of AI creation, which I saw someone post today. AI art is really just sort of copyright infringement. It's interesting because collage art really is actively stealing images from other creators and repurposing them. It depends on where you're sourcing your images from, etc. So I think collage could conceivably be equally unethical if not done thoughtfully. But, on the other side of the coin, anyone can do it. And I do have a couple collage decks that I find really fascinating. The Artist's Inner Vision, I think, is one that I've always meant to do a review of or a video of and never have. It's an out-of-print deck, but it what's the world? It you can get it pretty easily, and it's cool. It was a collaborative deck and a collage, so it's two things that a lot of us don't like. But actually, I think because of that, it works really successful. So here we are, and this is definitely Mercury, which is weird because I don't necessarily. I would kind of think the Knight of Swords would be Mercury, in a way, but I don't know if there are associations with that. So these are kind of out of order because I actually haven't shuffled this yet, so I think we're going backwards. We are. Yeah, I haven't shuffled it yet for some reason. I keep meaning to, and then I was like, well, I'm just going to do this video anyway, so I really like this. So I might as well just not shuffle it, and I'll shuffle it for you. But it's very kind of mass-market-y cardstock in a good way, which means it's easy to shuffle, it's fairly durable, it's not sticky. It's classic tarot cardstock from the, I don't know, I was going to say the golden age of mass market. I don't know that there's ever been a golden age, but there was a time when it was all there was. And it wasn't particularly fancy, but it was serviceable and in that regard, really effective. So, here we are in the Court of Swords. I don't know that it's particularly diverse from any other concept either, The argument always with collage decks is, well, there's not a lot of photographs, and that's not necessarily true. You just need to know where to look, and you need to sort of actively engage in doing the looking. It's more work, and I'm not faulting this particular creator. I'm faulting everyone who says that. I think that the Relative Tarot actually is relatively diverse for a collage deck, and they went, Carrie Paris and the collaborators who sourced images, I think did a pretty good job of finding a really diverse array of existing images to collage. And that actually, I think, is a really successful collage deck, too, although I don't take it down much. So, it is funny. A thing about collage decks is that when I am reading for others, which I'm often doing more than reading for myself, I really don't reach for collage decks much, and I don't know why. But I can definitely see using this. And I think, in terms of summer, it's bright, it's rich, the colorations are really saturated. It does have kind of a midsummer richness to it that I just think is pretty cool. So, yeah. As always, we reach the point in the walkthrough where I've run out of things to say. Just in general. So we will walk through, and I will ramble, and da-da-da-da-da. I mean, it is pretty. When I say standard issue, like I don't mean that. That's a bad thing. It's Wade Smith. And I like it. Otherwise, this is interesting. This texture on the skin. Let me hold it up. I can't get this lens to zoom in further, and I'm constantly in this battle of like, how do I make my videos better? Anyway, this texture on the skin is a little disconcerting to me, but c'est la vie. And then the pentacles are these sort of dollar bill. There's a name for that. I can't remember what it is. It's spooky. It's Masonic. I don't know. It's an interesting thing that all the pentacles are these sort of eyes, and I was like, oh god. And again, like that, ooh god isn't like, oh that's terrible, but it's arresting in a weird way. It's shocking. I love the Nine of Pentacles is one of my favorite cards on Wade Smith's decks, and I like that quite a bit. This is one card that doesn't quite seem to fit the rest, but it's fine. So it's really, I think it's cool in a lot of ways. It was really an impulse buy. I was, just bored one day and someone was like, oh, you should check this deck out. And I didn't even look at it. I just ordered it. As I sometimes do. Because I know if nothing else, I can get a video out of it. And isn't that ultimately my only reason for existing? I'll zoom out. Skosh. And shuffle it for you. I mean, it's going to shuffle nicely because it's tarot cardstock. And it does. It's quite nice. It feels very US Gamesy, I would say. And it's sort of that, like, coated, that kind of lamination that US Games uses. And by, it's not, like, a perceptible lamination like the newer printing of Llewellyn cards or that god-awful Schiffer garbage that they used to use that would actually start peeling. As I always say, tarot's a functional art, and so we need cards to be able to shuffle. And for me, who's a klutz, that is why I don't like linen. So, I'm going to give this a solid shuffle because I haven't shuffled it before. But yeah, so Ashley Cook Tarot, I think it's nice. I may have to zoom out more to get all the cards in. One more. I really do level. I love shuffling cards. I just find that a very satisfying action. Although as my hands become increasingly arthritic, I'm sure I will not feel that way for long, and that will be the end of my tarot reading career. See, this is a deck where borders, to me, are really helpful. Because the images are so sort of chaotic, and I don't mean that in a negative way, there's just a lot going on. The borders kind of help contextualize and frame it for me. And that's the thing that I appreciate mucho. Looks great in a spread, though, doesn't it? One of the things I always look for in a deck is that I can see what I'm looking at really clearly right away. This creator has thoughtfully adjusted the numerals on the cards so that they stand out against the background. Not everyone does that, and I find that that's really helpful, and the titles are nice and big. So I really like it. I think it's great. It's the Ashley Cook Tarot, ashleycookprints.com. You can also get it on her Etsy shop, which I will try to remember to leave below, but you can always Google it. So yeah, I think it's rich, it's vibrant, it's electric, it's summery. I think it's good in a lot of ways. The complaints I have are the same complaints I have about many decks, and I'm sure that those of you who hate when I talk about that will be sure to let me know that you hate that. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Be good, take care, and we will talk soon.